Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Episode of the E-commerce Edge podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host, and you get a twofer today. You are in for an absolutely special treat. Instead of having the typical one guest, I've got two in one here for you guys today. And I'm sure I'm going to absolutely butcher your name, Tomissa, but Tomissa SMITTENDORF. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too badly. Member of the Executive Council for Leading Change, Senior Director, Commercial Capabilities, Kellanova. And we also, yours is easier, Dan Hooker. That was so much easier. And hopefully I didn't butcher yours. Faculty, Cornell Kellogg, Graduate School of Management. Welcome to the podcast, both of you.
It's awesome to be here. We appreciate it.
Hello, Jason, and hello, listeners. We're lucky to be here. Thanks for having us.
My absolute pleasure to have you along for the ride today. And I was saying off air that one of the things that I absolutely love about having a podcast in this space is I get to talk to people that are so much smarter than me about their areas of expertise. It's impossible to be an expert in everything, right? As much as we try. And so I always try to get people on from wildly varying backgrounds, wildly differing experiences, with a whole suite of life behind them that I just don't have. And they help to light the way for me and by extension, my audience. So I'm really looking forward to this chat today. And Dan, you pointed out I tend to lean towards the more technical side of e-com. And whilst that's true, I really think the longer that I'm in this game and the longer that I do this and the longer, especially that I'm an independent consultant, that leadership, for good or for bad, is actually the single biggest determiner of the success of the organizations that I work with. Regardless of the technology, they can build the Ferrari of technology. But at the end of the day, if the leadership is poor, and I see this just so often where leadership just doesn't have a clear vision, they don't work backwards from the customer experience. They can't even tell me the type of experience they want to create for their customer when I go in to speak to them. So therefore, how can I help them engineer that experience if they don't even know what that looks like? And I'll turn it over to you guys to talk about your history, your background, a little bit of how you came to be in this space. But I think the focus for today is primarily going to be around leadership, change management, how we help people see a vision of the future that people want to be a part of and get on the bus with. Because look, everything we do in business requires people. Still, until the humanoid robots take over and our overlords take over, it still requires people, right?
We still need those people to make it all happen until those agentic bots come and do it all for us. So that's what we do here at Cornell. We train great humans, but I'm going to let Tomissa go first to introduce herself, and we can talk about we came together to put together the original omnichannel program 4 years ago. So Tomissa, I'll just let you go first.
And Jason, you nailed it with my name. So 100%
wow.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
So just really excited to be here and talk about something that's so near and dear to my heart, and that's developing people. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You're absolutely correct. It's the investment in our people. People are the heartbeat of the organization. And so I have the amazing job to lead all of that for our commercial organization. And I've been with previously Kellogg, now Kellanova, for 36 years. So I've had the opportunity to work in a number of different functions, which really has allowed me to experience the company in so many different ways and be able to step back and really see the company very holistically. So programs like this, you can really drive it forward, just understanding enough about the organization and how it runs and what people need. And I couldn't be more excited to talk through anything you've got coming at us today. And of course, it's amazing to be here with Dan as well. We've had this partnership for a number of years. We'll talk about it. And Dan, I'll jump it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Tomissa. Jason, I started here at Cornell a long time ago, and I went out into what I'll call the real world for about 29 years, mainly in brick and mortar retail. So I spent some time at Aldi, which is on a tear these days. I spent 14 years of my career at a company called Damon Worldwide, where we worked with retailers to develop their private brand strategy from ideation all the way through execution to put that item in the shopper's cart or get it delivered. Then I made the leap to a startup, joining Jet.com, which was acquired by Walmart. And I managed Walmart's private consumables portfolio online for about 2 years. Then had the opportunity to come back to Cornell as a member of the faculty in 2019, where I get to help mold the minds of the future. And here at Cornell, I teach the industry management program. I teach marketing and supply chain in the graduate and undergraduate classes. And then that's where Tomissa and I also crossed paths. I also work on executive programs with companies like Kellanova to help our leaders or future leaders in the world of food and consumables and retail make good decisions, hire great people, and lead their businesses.
Wow. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way in which you guys collaborate primarily, is that around creating internal training programs inside Kellanova to develop leadership capabilities within the business? Is that kind of where you guys intersect within the Kellanova business?
Yes, and yes, multiple yeses. And I think Tomissa can answer that more specifically. But before we get there, maybe I'll just tell the story of how we came together. So, what was it, Tomissa, 4 years ago now? Geez, we've done a lot in this short period of time. But coming out of COVID, the focus on e-commerce, digital commerce, the shift from brick and mortar to shopping online and getting your products delivered, obviously, Jason, took off or exploded. And Cornell's run the food executive program for 62 years, longer than I've been alive. And we have many partners that we put that program together with, one of them being Ahold Delhaize, the big retailer on the Eastern Seaboard here in the US, plus in Europe. And they reached out to Cornell and said, hey, this channel thing is happening really fast. We need to upskill our people. Do you have any programs that you currently offer to leaders or executives at Cornell? We didn't at the time, they didn't at the time. So we said, hey, let's create one. And so that's how this kind of partnership started. And one of the first calls that our partners there called was Tomissa. I know Tomissa, she's fantastic. She's a great leader. She's doing these really cool things at Kellanova. Let's pull her into this mix and let's create this program, which we end up calling Omnichannel Leadership Program. So that's how we all came together, or at least Tomissa and I came together for the original program. But I think more specifically, Tomissa can answer on how we work together to craft leadership programs, not just with Cornell, but probably within Kellanova as well.
Yeah, and I would say it goes beyond just traditional leadership. So it's really functional training. So you think about, we just did a retail media network leadership program, this omni-channel leadership program. And so it's a little broader, I would say, bringing in those functional capabilities, which is so incredibly important. But the thing I like about Cornell, I think about Cornell almost as the trifecta because they bring that academic excellence. They also have this amazing cutting edge research. And then professors like Dan, who have been in the industry, they speak our language. They're amazing. So that combined together really helps balance out a program when you're developing it. And not to mention the leaders that we're bringing in to speak. You've got the visionary leaders and you've got an opportunity for so many retailers and manufacturers to be able to come together and share best practices in one place. You don't get that opportunity very often. And quite frankly, how many opportunities do you get to spend 4 days with a retailer networking? And these are just amazing humans to get to know. And so it's so much fun and it's so rewarding.
Wow.
That's
Sorry to interrupt, Dan. So I had it around the wrong way. So actually, this was Tomissa, you coming in to help develop and contribute to the program that Dan was developing, not the other way around, him working with you to develop a program specifically for the Kellanova team. I had it around the wrong way, but I'm guessing that program then is also applicable within the Kellanova organization in many instances as well.
Absolutely. And we do vice versa. We do the same. I brought Dan in to develop a Think Like a Retailer program, very customized for Kellanova. It's important for us to really step back and be able to solve those retailer problems. And how do we do that? We've got to understand what the retailer has to do day in and day out, the decisions they have to make, all the things that impact our retailers. And so we developed a custom program called Think Like a Retailer. So we do both.
You move both directions. And Dan, I cut you off. Back over to you.
I was just going to add, it's a little anecdotal. Sometimes where I know, and we just put the retail media program on, and you hear executives that are leaders in their industry, top of the game for retail media or digital marketing or supply chain, saying, geez, I haven't been in a college class in, I don't know, 30 years or 20 years. So I say that because when we put these programs together, we try and balance Cornell faculty and industry expertise. The saying that I came up when we worked together to develop the first program was built by industry, powered by Cornell. So the Cornell energy engine, if you will, faculty, and specifically at Cornell Tech, where our technology center is, we host a couple of the programs. The faculty were focused on things like AI and supply chain optimization and digital transformation and the latest and greatest on digital marketing. But we needed industry leaders and experts to really make the content something that the participants can actually take home with them and use it. Yes, in the instance, we reached out to Tomissa to create this first program, but really it's a true partnership between specifically Tomissa and Kellanova and Cornell. Like, we created these programs together. So we talk about the content, we talk about the faculty, we talk about the industry leaders, we talk about, stuff like what kind of is Dan's favorite RX bar to bring to the program, because it's my favorite snack when I need a really energy hit, or favorite Pop-Tart. And I joke a little bit, but we do talk about those things because the detail matters, but true partnership to deliver industry leading content.
I love that. When we think about the structure of these programs, is this considered a graduate program? Or are these like 1 month programs, 2 month programs, like a quarter? Like, what is the duration, the depth? Is there a certification on the backside of that once somebody completes the program? What does the structure of the education typically take?
Yeah, excellent question. And I can touch on it first. And I would think I would add on that in a second too, on where I think Tomissa does a wonderful thing with some of their partners in disseminating and sharing information. But the answer is it depends. For these specific programs that we call open enrollment programs, like the retail media program, the omnichannel program, and the food executive program, they're usually 4 days long. That's about we believe, the sweet spot for executives in time, in terms of how much time they can get away from their everyday
Day job, so to
jobs.
speak?
Yeah, after that, it just becomes a long time, and people are itching to get out of there and get home to their families as well too. So it's about 3 to 4 days. All programs offer a Cornell certificate. So I get a certificate in omnichannel leadership or a certificate in retail media strategy. So that's through Cornell, and that requires a certain number of hours of participation and work. And then we have custom certification programs. Cornell has a very broad suite of online learning courses that Kellanova's tapped into or utilize as well. But we run the gamut of things that we offer, and I like to be Tomissa's cheerleader too. The way that they disseminate and share information, I think, is pretty amazing too. Tomissa, I'm referring to Tiger Hall. I don't know if that's appropriate to talk about, but you guys are best in class when it comes to sharing information.
Hey, if you get nominated for one of these programs at Kellanova and you show up, you've got to be able to take the message back to the organization and scale it, because, it's not just going to be 10 people that attend that get those learnings. We want to bring it back and be able to share it. So we do that through automated podcasts, things like that, through a social learning platform that we have called Tiger Hall. So it's pretty awesome.
Wow. And that is just so, Tomissa, so you're the Senior Director Commercial Capabilities at Kellanova. So does this encompass everything from education to hands-on learning to trying to create the ladder that people can achieve within the business and grow through within the business and unlock new levels of, I guess, remuneration and senior leadership and all those types of things? And do you help manage that pathway, that learning and growth, personal growth, professional growth pathway within Kellanova? Is that kind of your remit?
You got it. And I
Oh,
love it all. So I like to say my team is the driving force to build knowledge capital in the organization. And that's exactly what we do. And we work very close with HR because they own the talent strategy. We're always aligned to it. We have a learning and development value proposition. And so we stay very tight to our strategy and what we do. And at the end of the day, we want to build that intentional learner mindset because at Kellanova, we want everyone to learn, grow, and thrive. And it's no different than the programs that Cornell builds and Dan runs. You want everyone to come in and be able to share those learnings and be able to learn, grow, and thrive.
and I'm guessing because these sound like digital forward, digital first programs that you don't necessarily have to come to Cornell, physically sit in a classroom. I'm guessing that some of these are virtual, that you can attend these courses virtually and submit coursework virtually.
No, it is all in person. That's the
Wow.
great thing. So we have a very blended learning approach at Kellanova. So some of our programs are in person, the ones that really need to be in person. Obviously, some you can learn through short podcasts, you can learn through power reads, videos, things like that. But this program is pretty intense and it is in person.
Yeah,
And so
we've
I guess so does that mean you have people fly in from all over the country and like just stay in a local Airbnb or a hotel or whatever it is and do the 4 days on the trot of the program or whatever it is, and it's like a intensive basically.
Oh, it's intense. So let me jump in and describe the program that's happening next week. We have our fourth cohort in the Omnichannel Leadership Program. And as I said earlier, it takes place at Cornell Tech. Cornell Tech is our campus on Roosevelt Island in New York City. So it's I call it a slice of heaven. You're on an island in Manhattan. You don't really feel like you're quite in the city. You have the river and you have a breeze. It's just a stunning, beautiful place to be. So we have a campus sitting right on the end of Roosevelt Island. There's a hotel there. Participants fly in, and next week it's really from all over the world. We have participants from Europe, South America, and the US coming into this for this program. They stay at the hotel there that's connected to the campus. And then we have 3.5 days of intense learning happening. In addition to what we do in the classroom, we have networking opportunities with dinners and time to be together outside of the classroom. So these people fly in, they spend 3.5 days of intense classroom work. We assign group projects and the participants work together to solve something related to the content of the program. They roll up their sleeves hard, they're long days, but we still have a great time and a lot of fun. We call morning movement, and we get up early and we do some fun stuff around the island to make sure that we're active too. If the sun's out, we're outside too learning. So it's a real experience. It is intense though. It's Cornell University. You have to work hard.
I love it. And give me a taste of kind of the outline of some of the key areas or topics or subject matter that you cover in the Omnichannel Leadership Program. What are the types of things that I would be exposed to from a learning perspective if I was to take part in this program?
I'll tell you because it's out there and we're just about on this. So we start with some of our leaders. Ahold Delhaize happens to be running the first session to kick off the event with their store first strategy and their importance of leading a store when it comes to order fulfillment and meeting the customer with the customer shopping and getting them their products delivered is the time that they want it. Usually wants their stuff faster. We have students that where we've partnered with Nielsen IQ on what's happening with trends. We have some of our partners from Advantage Solutions that work as an intermediary between CPGs and retailers to deliver all kinds of marketing services. You'll see AI strategies on how to implement AI to help be more productive in your day-to-day work stream. We have a session on retail media. We have a session on in-store media, what's happening with screens and a way to connect with consumers as they're physically still shopping. It's still a large audience. With our faculty coming in, talking about the importance of the omnichannel shopper. We have sessions on AI. We have some of our partners, CPG companies that are presenting their view of ID, joint value creation, joint business planning. We have sessions on digital transformation. Am I giving you too much stuff here?
No, this is great. Love it.
Leadership, supply chain execution, and then we wrap it up with a session from one of our top faculty on storytelling, because after all these participants spend 3.5 days together learning, they need to go back to their organization and know how to tell that story. What did I learn? What does it mean for my company? What does it mean for my team? What does it mean for my business? So we try and wrap up with giving all the participants some tools on how to take everything they learned back to their organization and implement it. It's a very action oriented program.
Yeah,
And
I think that's one of the things I love is that you can take something back and put it into action because everybody's at a different spot in their journey around omni-channel. So it looks a little bit different for everyone. And I remember, Dan, one of the first programs that we did, I actually participated and I was in some of the breakouts. And they're really small breakouts where you feel like you can share a lot. We shared best practices, what was working, what wasn't. I think we were doing a case study actually together, but it was just a small, intimate group. And you really got to learn a lot about each other and a lot about what was working. And I thought that was so beneficial to be able to bring back some of those learnings back to the organization.
yeah, it's a great point, Tomissa. And I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but we're at the retail media program early May, and there was a call in observer. We had a gentleman that was an SVP of a major FMCG brand there saying to me, "Hey, Dan, this is great. You bringing new content to the industry." And he goes, "I remember when I was at the Food Executive Program, I don't know, we said 10 years ago, and this is another program that we have." And he said, "Some of the people I met there are my closest customers that I do business with today." So these courses create some bond between business partners that carry forward for years. We have people that come back to our programs now as guest speakers, and they might be a senior leader, they might be a COO, they might even be the CEO that talk about how when they were just a category manager, I say just, just like it's as important, went through this program and they have these bonds and now they're like running their organization and they still have their manual on their desk that we gave them when they were here at long before my time. We don't do that anymore. So that's another benefit. It's these great friendships, partnerships, network, just bonds that get created working together on these small groups.
And do both of you find that typically, and I'm guessing this is mostly going to be anecdotal, but do you find that obviously, let's say I'm a lifer within Kellanova and I've maybe worked my way up the ranks, maybe I've been there for 15 plus years. And sometimes when we work inside of organizations for a very long period of time, we can get a little bit myopic because that's what our focus is. That's who's paying our paycheck. So we have to be focused on those businesses. But sometimes getting an outside or third party perspective or being exposed to third party ideas, that can really open up our mind to the art of the possible. And for those of us that are live this every day and are consultants or working in agencies or SIs or working for platform vendors or whatever, it's a different story because we're literally, our focus is the tech, our focus is the processes, our focus are the channels, our focus are whatever in the industry. But for people that are working in specific merchant businesses or specific FMCG businesses, that isn't necessarily their focus. Their focus is on growing their business. And so I feel like this could be the catalyst to kick off maybe a refreshed desire for learning, a refreshed hunger to absorb more current stuff from the industry, from outside their business. And so do you find that these people then go on to maybe listen to more industry podcasts or maybe consume more industry content or read more analyst reports from the industry who try to help keep them current on what the state of the art in the industry is from a people, process, and technology perspective? Do you find that stimulate something inside of them that maybe they haven't had stimulated in quite some time?
I think it's all about having that intentional learner mindset, having a growth mindset. If you don't change, you will get left behind. And I think you need to build the culture of having that intentional learner mindset. We've built that culture. I will tell you, with our learning plan, we have a 3-year capability building plan. So that in itself, we are always teaching. And whether you're new to the organization, whether you need immediate, advanced, we've got the whole capability plan. And so our organization is very used to a continued learning agenda and being able to develop yourself. But you've got to have that and it's got to be part of your culture. And that's definitely what we've built. And I know that because we implemented a social learning platform, which is all about upskilling our organization. And we are at a 90% adoption rate. And oh, by the way, did I tell you it's totally optional? So, an
Yeah,
optional learning platform, we are at 90% adoption rate in our commercial organization. So, that tells me people have that intentional learner mindset and they want to learn.
What's interesting is I think some people they think that leaders are born not built, and I'd love to get your both of your takes on this because in my experience, sure, maybe there are some inherent character traits that make people maybe more or less prone to either want to lead or capable of leading. But I feel that I feel that for me, I've absolutely become a better leader over the years because I've read leadership based books. I've listened to thought leaders in the leadership space. I've consumed content in this world. I've been exposed to great leaders as bosses, as mentors, as contemporaries working alongside me. And I feel that and maybe just age helps too. I'm 50 now, so maybe just a few more gray hairs on the head helps, but and a deeper pool of experience to pull from and to reference in don't do this because this is probably likely to burn you. But I feel like leadership is something that a lot of people don't, especially if they're just caught in the day-to-day grind of their role, their job, their task that they're doing that's at hand, they forget that leadership is a skill to be learned and that we can learn from great leaders around us if we do that, as you say, with intention. If we want to be great leaders, then we can learn how to be great leaders from the example of great leaders in society around us. Do you think that is something that leadership is a skill to be acquired that you don't necessarily have to be born a great leader?
I'll jump in here, Dan. I absolutely believe that, especially in the position that I'm in. And look, I've stayed with a company for 36 years. How many people do that? We have amazing people and we have amazing opportunities to move talent in the organization and continue to invest in our talent through learning, through programs like we do with Cornell. And so I definitely think it's a learned skill.
I would echo that. At Cornell, we teach leadership, not just to the graduates, but also executives. There are skills that you can learn to become a better leader, whether that's building trust, whether that is how you communicate, whether that's how you have a more strategic mindset. So we teach all these things here at Cornell, and we believe wholeheartedly that we can build or create better leaders. But I would also to take a step back to your question around how some of these programs can help that as well. We refer to these as open enrollment programs. We have companies there that compete with each other and they're in the same room. And we bring in leaders from the best CPGs like Kellanova. We bring in leaders from the best retailers in omnichannel like Walmart and Sam's Club, Ahold, and they all connect and can share learning. Nothing confidential happens in the room, but that's a great way. If you're very myopic and in one role at one company for a long time, you're exposed to new things. In fact, the first cohort that we had, we brought in Dick's Sporting Goods. And who would have thunk Dick's Sporting Goods in Kellanova? I think you sell some products there. I guess there's some Pop Tarts that might help you swing the bat faster. Who knows? But Dick's Sporting Goods in Kellanova, but together, right, Tomissa, it was like, wow, they're doing that there. And they had one of their leaders to talk about the crisis they went through. Their stores were closed, right? They didn't lay people off. The stores were closed during the pandemic, but they had to figure out a way to be able to service their customer quickly and come together. And I don't think they lost many people because of the culture and the leaders they had in that organization.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to learn. I remember specifically, they always talked about the athlete that comes in and the athlete that's entering their store, and they know their shoppers so well. And it was just really cool to be able to learn from a company like that and gain those insights. They were laser focused on their shopper, they call the athlete.
Yeah. Jason, can I throw a question back at you?
Please do. That's normally how I finish my podcast episodes anyway, so why not jump it in right up front?
Yeah, why not? You talk to a lot of companies, a lot of startups, a lot of tech companies, big companies, small companies, consultants. So if I were to ask you to, what are the characteristics that you see some of these leading companies that you talk to? What are the characteristics of their leaders, and especially the startups? And how might you approach the question you just asked us? Are leaders born or made?
I think there is elements of both that are important. I think some people are just that they have a natural magnetic personality or whatever it might be, and they just seem to gravitate towards leadership positions, and people seem to want them to lead because they have that intangible in their personality that you go, wow, this person is just a natural leader. But then there's plenty of leaders out there who maybe weren't born with the right stuff, so to speak, but they learned it along the way and they built the skill set that was required to lead their companies to greatness over time. And I've had the privilege of working for both types of leaders during my career and working alongside both types of leaders in my career. So I think it can be born. A lot of those skill sets can be just in your nature and in your personality. But then I think you can also acquire a tremendous amount of leadership skills alongside that. And even people that are born with it, that's kind of like a rough stone. It's a rough diamond, right? In many instances, they still need to have that refined by the real world experience of life that knocks a few of the rough edges off along the way and certainly knocks us down a peg as we go through life, especially those of us that are prone to perhaps confidence or occasionally overconfidence, right? And so I think that it can absolutely be learned, but some of the key characteristics I see of leadership that has longevity alongside of it, as opposed to flash in the pan leaders that maybe rise to prominence really quickly, but they burn out really quickly. The people that I see that have longevity, they have absolutely a really seriously refined empathy gene. They somehow have been able to culture some sense of empathy in their mind and in their heart for people. The and I think oftentimes the ones that we put up on a pedestal, the global leaders that we put up on a pedestal, sometimes what they do and how they do it is not very repeatable. And there's very few people in the world that could be a Steve Jobs, no matter how much they study Steve Jobs. That's just the reality.
Sure.
And would I say that he was the most empathetic leader ever? Some of the stories would tell me behind the scenes, maybe not, right? But he managed to build a great company that has stood the test of time. But the in the trenches leaders that I see, especially the ones that make great wartime generals instead of just peacetime generals, I think you have to go through some sort of trial by fire in your world, in your life. There has to be some sort of thing that you've overcome to really become a pretty well-rounded leader, and that leads to you having good empathy as a leader, because there's lots of really good peacetime generals. When ZERP is in play and everything's up and to the right and everything's growing and it's champagne and cocaine, life's pretty easy. But for someone like me who has been through I've lived in 3 different countries. I have been through multiple recessions, including the GFC and including the dot-com crash. I've lived through all of that. We've been through a pandemic. I was working inside of an agency during the pandemic, and we went from all of our customers putting every single commerce project on hold at the same time during the start of the pandemic to literally within 2 months, everybody wanting everything yesterday because they realized everything was moving online. Like, I think you have had to go through some really tough times to see whether you are capable of leading through those tough times. And I think you got to have a little bit of scar tissue, right? And that also teaches you that the world is not going to end the next time a downturn happens, the next time a new competitor comes into the market, the next time you have to do some mass layoffs, otherwise you're going to go out of business, the next time that you have to do some of these things. I just think that it's really difficult to discern whether you have what it takes to be a good leader until you've been put through the trials and tribulations of a leader. And so to me, those are some of the characteristics that I've seen. People that they can stay positive. They can see the silver lining in most situations. They can create a vision that people want to buy into and that they want to be a part of. That storytelling element that you talked about, Dan, I have yet to see a great leader that couldn't tell a great story. That is an absolute fundamental fact. Like, it's very difficult to be a great leader, to create a culture of leadership around you and people that want to get on the bus with your journey, unless you can paint a really pretty clear picture of what that journey looks like and what the rainbow, what is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that we're going for here. Those are some of the leadership traits that I've seen that really stand out to me. But I have seen leaders from almost every single personality type you can imagine. I worked for a great leader once that was an extreme introvert, the most introverted leader I ever worked for. Great leader. I've worked for some extreme extroverts on the other end of the spectrum. So I don't think there's necessarily a super hard set of character traits or star signs or whatever you want to call it that make great leaders. But I definitely think the fundamentals have to be there, that you have to have a heart for people. And I think you have to be a great storyteller.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot there. I kept thinking as you were saying that, the word grit comes to mind too, just getting through a reorg or having to do a riff or creating a new business or getting people to rally behind something, and they're not paid a whole lot, but you need them to accomplish something together. So those are great. And I was thinking about this conversation we're having today, and I have tons of questions I'd love to ask you too. But when it comes to leaders, I teach a lot of undergraduate students here at Cornell University, and I like to think of my job now as edutainment. Really, sure, I could say to my students, no iPhones or iPads or computers in class, but using AI as a tool. So in my space, it's an important tool, but I'm competing with TikTok videos. If my lecture or whatever I'm talking about is boring, I'll lose them in minutes. So my next question, and I don't mean to take over here with lots of questions, is I'm trying to teach the young ones how to be ready for industry, yet we have AI and agentic AI taking jobs. Do you have thoughts on that? And I don't know, maybe Tomissa, I know Tomissa's heard people how to use some of those tools. What are your thoughts on what's the job market look like with all this new technology coming into play?
Great questions. I think, let me just go back to that first thing where you mentioned grit. And I just posted a post to LinkedIn yesterday talking about how the first I've been in business now as an independent consultant. I've been in e-commerce for over 25 years, but been as an independent consultant for just under 5 years now. And I made a post about the fact that the first 2 years of my consultancy when I went independent, they were pretty challenging. Like it took time to build up a solid pipeline. And I used the term that it felt like in the beginning, I was often a B2B e-commerce evangelist first and an entrepreneur second. So I was trying to create demand by helping to educate the industry that this is where the industry is moving. You don't want to miss out. You need to take part in this. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. And therefore, we need to educate the market that this is the shift that's happening. And then hopefully by educating the market, I would ultimately be top of mind, hopefully, when some of these businesses decided to get on that journey of digital transformation, and they would see by example that I would be in a position to be able to help them, guide them, support them, coach them, etc. But I had been creating content by the time this whole death of organic content really started to take hold. And even on LinkedIn, organic cut through is really low now, and it's really harder than ever before to cut through the noise. I've been making content for a decade at scale by that time. And so the reality is that takes a long-term view of the world. And I knew when I started my consultancy that I wanted to double down on B2B because I saw that was where the market was going to be the biggest moving forward, because there was so few of us in the industry that had that deep experience in the B2B world and could help businesses tie it all together. And B2B was far more immature from a digital transformation perspective than the retail B2C and D2C world. They were much more mature. Something like 98%, I was reading a statistic the other day, something like 98% of B2C and D2C businesses offer some form of e-commerce in their business, whereas less than 60%, depending on which category and vertical, do in B2B. And so I knew that was where the growth opportunity was going to come from. But man, I had to have a lot of belief in myself, and I had to stick to those guns for a long period of time before the market turned around and started coming to me instead of me having to go to it. And to your point of grit, I just had to have, and frankly, I got to be honest, it was Gary Vee that kicked my ass over a decade ago. He kicked my ass with his content so many times and saying, "Oh, you think you're a thought leader? Great. Put your thoughts out in the world and let the market decide. You think you're so smart. You think you're so experienced. You think you got something important to say, then bloody say it and let the market decide whether it has any relevance to them or whether it matters in the world." And so I got so sick of hearing that. I was like, okay, Gary Vee, just start putting out content and I'll trust the process. Clouds and dirt, the whole thing, right? And he said famously back then when I first started listening to him, he said, "You won't necessarily know what good things will come out of creating content and putting your ideas out into the world. You won't know upfront what good things, but just trust me, something good will come out of that. And it may take years to figure out what those good things are, but it will happen. You just have to trust the process." And he was 100%. The friends that I've made in this industry, the opportunity to speak at conferences, the opportunity to meet friends that turned into clients, the opportunity to get better positions in industry, the opportunity to start my own agency way down the track after I'd built a personal brand. These things that you just have to have faith that those people who have come before you and achieved maybe some modicum of success that you would perhaps like to emulate, if you have any belief that what they're saying is true, then you have to be willing to put in the effort over a sustained period of time to achieve what they've achieved. Because I can guarantee you, none of those people that you see that made it overnight in our industry, none of them did. None of them did. It was like, what's that saying? 10 years to become an overnight success. I totally believe that because it's a story. Okay, occasionally somebody will go viral, but the 99.9% of people out there, they put in effort for a long period of time to see the success that they see. So that's the first thing that I would say is that this grit thing, it's a real thing. Like it's a real thing. You got to be willing to put in the work for a long period of time. And you actually have to love the process, not the result. So I love, for example, the fact that you and we get to have this conversation today. I love people so much that I would get up and do this every single day. If I could make a living off just this is what I would do because I love it that much. And so for me, regardless of how many people view this or hear this or act on it or whatever, I enjoy it. I just enjoy the process alone, regardless of the result. Now, the result is nice, but I just love the process. And I think you have to, if you go into every single challenge with a mindset of actually the goal of this is to learn, not necessarily to win, then you can never lose. As long as you get one nugget of learning out of every situation, then you're a winner at life, as far as I'm concerned. So that's the place of grit I come from, but it wasn't necessarily an idea of mine. It was that I had lots of smart people who modeled that around me as I came into this industry. And I think that's a really important thing is that there's models out there for anything we want to achieve. There's somebody out there that has modeled this before us, right?
Yeah.
And I've now been talking about that for so long, I forgot the second question you asked.
I was listening intently and I agree with you. And I don't even remember what the second question I asked you either. Maybe Tomissa remember. I don't know. There's one thing, but you answered it.
Love it. Love it. Tomissa, what, from your perspective, you've been in this industry for a heck of a long time. What are some of the character traits you see in leaders that like stand out to you that you say, look, I can pretty early on when I meet somebody, I can tell whether they've got the right stuff to make a good leader in our organization?
Yeah, I'd add on resilience, and that can be a learned skill. It's so incredibly important because you've got to be resilient to change. There's so many things to unpack about being resilient. So I would definitely say that's a skill that can definitely be learned. And it's about well-being and all of the things that make that up. And as a good leader, you've got to be able to really find balance and be able to do that through resiliency.
Yeah. And Jason, if I'm add to here, and if someone were to ask me, and I have, what do I have? One in college now, one graduated, and one getting his PhD here. And then I teach, I don't know, 300 kids a year. And every year someone will ask me, what's the most important courses to take. And of course, I say, yeah, you need to be smart. You need to take math and programming and technology. But the most important thing I say to them, if it's a parent or even a student, is, and I bundle it all under communications, storytelling, the ability to connect, like you just said, Jason, friendships, relationships, storytelling. I have a book on, it's really a book that you would get if you went to see a therapist, if you're in a relationship, romantic relationship or something like that. It's about relationships and understanding your partner, whomever it is you're in that relationship with. That skill, I believe, is probably the single most important skill that they need to get when they come out of their 4-year experience here at college. I know in the executive world it's a little bit different, but I would add that on.
Love that. And I remembered your second question, which was AI. You got students that are asking you about AI and what that's going to mean for their career, and should I even be going into this career? And I will remember this one, but I wanted to mention one last thing that tails off nicely with what you just said. I read a number of years ago, it must have been 15 years ago now or something like that, that I read the 5 Love Languages, right? And that was game changing for me in terms of interpersonal communications with significant others and the like. But I actually found that book was equally important in the application of leadership of teams and interaction with other people within a work environment. Because in the same way that not everybody interprets love the same way, not everybody interprets any type of communication that we extend to them in exactly the same way. And so we have to understand how the people that are in our sphere of influence like to receive information, how they best receive information, how they best receive education. I'm not a school learner. I never went to university. I'm an autodidactic learner. So I learned by doing. And so I learn in very different ways to my wife, who went to university. She got a degree. Like, she loves the university learning environment. She loves the tertiary environment. And so I think we have to know ourselves, but we also have to get to know those around us if we want to educate them, if we want to take them on a learning journey with us, if we want to paint a vision that they can feel like they can be a part of. The way that they receive that is going to be and the way that they need to receive that and the way that they need to have that presented to them can be quite different depending on their personality and their natural character traits. So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing I would say, AI. Yes, look, I don't think anybody that tells you they know exactly where this whole AI thing is going to land, I think, is either lying to you or they're delusional, because I don't think any of us know. But there's a pattern recognition here that I think those of us that have been in the industry for a while, you've been in the industry for over 2 decades. There's been a few disruptions on this scale before, including and up to the original internet. I'm old enough to remember a pre-internet age where we didn't have the internet. I remember the coming of the internet. I remember dial-up. I remember bulletin boards. I remember, all that coming of the internet. And then in a post-internet world, I remember the disruption that mobile brought to our industry was the second most disruptive force in our lives, where this little thing right here became the remote control of our lives. That was as disruptive as the internet. Now, I think AI is the next great disruptor. It's the fourth or fifth or whatever you want to call it, industrial revolution. And yes, it is going to replace some jobs. The more I use AI, the more I am confident that humans aren't going away anytime soon. Because I tell you, when I see the amount of hallucination, when I see the amount of rubbish, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? The internet is filled with a plethora of information, ranging all the way from absolute trash all the way to the smartest utterings of mankind and machine, right? And everything in between. And as a result of that, I think, AI, which has been largely trained on the corpus of information across the internet, AI ranges in quality from very crap all the way up to, wow, that's like a crystal ball, and everything in between. And I've used lots of AI technologies over the last couple of years and continue to, and I couldn't do what I do without it, at least not at the scale I do it at. So is AI transformative? Absolutely. But I think soft skills are actually going to become even more important in the future world than less, because that is I think creativity and soft skills, those are the two things. It's interesting because Facebook did a study. I think it was about 6 or 12 months ago. They released some research when they were doing their llama work in pre-training, and they showed that with synthetic training data generated by AI, within 2 generations, the output of AI based on synthetic training data was completely unintelligible. AI still needs input from human data, human interactions, human conversations to build training data around. And so I'm not a fatalist. Do I think AI is probably the single greatest existential threat humankind has ever faced? Yes. Do I think we all can have a really positive impact on shaping the future of AI and how we let that into our society and into our culture? Yes. So that's my position on AI.
Jason, you had me at love languages. Yeah, it's a interesting time to be, at least from where I stand.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your, as we come down to the end of our time together, and I so appreciate your time. You guys have both been absolutely incredible to speak with today. I've gotten a schooling as I expected to, which is great. What are you seeing in the AI space? And obviously there's a lot of fear and trembling out there, but those of us that have seen a few disruptions in our past, I'm trying to embrace it as best I can. And at the very least, I'm trying to keep my clients calm with the coming of AI and saying, look, in 99% of cases, you're going to be adopting AI through your platform vendors because they're breaking their back to figure out how to get AI into their technology. It's not like you got to figure out how to integrate AI into what you do as a standalone thing. It's going to come in through every piece of software you introduce into your business. But give me some of your thoughts on AI and the near future.
Yeah, we are definitely embracing AI. So just as you said, it's really important to embrace it, have it. It can be your co-intelligent partner, but you've got to be able to know where that human connection needs to come in. And to your point earlier, Jason, those soft skills, or we like to call them transferable skills, those are incredibly important to continue to learn. And that's what's going to help you really learn, grow, and thrive. And so I wouldn't say we are not backing off by any means on AI. We're 100% full speed ahead, but doing that in a safe way.
Yeah.
And Jason, I would add, admittedly, remember when Zappos started selling shoes online? I was that person that would be, no one's going to buy shoes on a website. You got to go try them on and see how they feel and around the building and make sure they're the right fit. Not only the cool factor, how are you going to know just looking at some, at the time, pretty crappy image online? Little I know, I'm a gigantic business. So I've learned, and I know, at least from an educational standpoint, it's going to be a tool. And like you said, there's a lot of crap, problems, challenges, issues that AI is going to bring humanity. If we approach it with it's a tool to make us better, stronger, faster. But at the same time, we have to remember there's humans controlling it and there's humans using it and there's humans that both get the value and make it all happen. So I would agree with you there, Tomissa, too.
Let's put it this way. I think in-person events like conferences, this is going to be my busiest conference year since COVID. So pre-COVID, I used to do a lot of conferences, but this year I'll have gone to more conferences and spoken at more conferences this year since before the COVID years. And I tell you, I love it so much. I perhaps took it a little bit for granted pre-COVID, to be honest, where I'd be like, oh my God, another conference. But now that we had that COVID learning, and I'm such a physical person, I love to be around other people energetically. It just feels different. It cuts different when you're physically in the same space and sharing a drink with somebody and talking shop in person. It's such a different thing. And I missed it so much. I don't think I realized just how much I missed it now that I'm back on the conference circuit. And man, I tell you that I just think that with, full agentic podcasts being able to be created now, I think that not being able to believe your eyes or ears on almost any media on the internet anymore, whether it was synthetic or real. I think that long form conversations like these, where somebody has a history of creating real, genuine content and they're known for it, combined with the in-person type of experiences, I think live sports, live conferences, live events, live activities, those things are going to take on a whole new level of value and importance in our lives, especially as AI created synthetic content and UGC and everything else just starts to invade the internet at scale. I have a sense that in-person thing, that human energetic field thing, that I'm not a tree hugger. There is a thing. There is a biochemical energy with humans that you can't put your finger on, and it's just not the same. on a Zoom call. So I'm putting my bets down on live activities and live events and in-person connections, meaning more in the future, not less.
So,
Well,
Jason,
Jason,
you should join us sometime.
Yeah,
I,
I would love to. Would absolutely love to.
Tomissa, I was just going to ask Jason, I'll make the invitation here on this podcast. You got to come up to Ithaca for one of our programs. You can't walk through the botanical gardens and smell the flowers. You can't walk up Cascadilla Gorge or see Ithaca Falls or have our ice cream at Cornell's Dairy Bar that's so rich in butterfat, you can't even call it ice cream. You can't do that on AI. You got the
Wow.
invitation to come join us.
Thank you, guys. I'll absolutely take you up on that. We'll take that offline and we'll make some plans. I love that. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I've so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profiles into the show notes. Other than that, how do you like people to get a hold of you and have conversations about all things digital, your programs, your learning center, all that sort of stuff? How do you like people to reach out to you and have those chats?
LinkedIn's awesome by me.
LinkedIn's great too, or you can always reach us at cornell.edu, but LinkedIn's perfect.
Love it. And Tomissa, Dan has been able to ask a few of his own questions here, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and let you ask any question you like of me before we finish this thing off and close it out.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mine's personal, if it's okay.
Please do.
Do you like motocross?
I've just bought a KTM dirt bike and it's sitting out in front of my house. I grew up riding dirt bikes from the time I was 3 years old. Used to race them when I was younger, then got into street bikes laterally into my late teen years, and I've been a lifelong motorcycle rider.
Wow. Okay. One of my very good friends is a 6-time world motocross champion.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Almost anything with an engine. I'm a true gearhead. Love jet skis, love skydiving, love paragliding. Was about to get my paramotoring license before I left New Zealand. Got to pick that back up again. Kind of anything with a motor, anything that's adrenaline based, I absolutely love. So yeah, love dirt bikes, love street bikes. Yeah, love anything on the twos. It's great.
That's awesome. A little danger, but hey, it's all fun.
Yeah. We don't. My wife and I don't have kids, so I think that's possibly one of the reasons why I still love to do it. I think if I had kids, maybe I would perhaps be a little bit more careful with things. Make sure Dad's going to hang around for a while, but I'm a fur dad, so still got to be around. Listen,
Yeah.
guys, it's been so much fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really hope we can do this again soon. If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.